Got it.
Welcome to the show. We got elite model Amy Taylor here. We're going to talk about all kinds of just kind of movie genre deep cuts, and then we're going to get into kind of a bigger chat on very big social topic, sex work. The betrayal on screen versus behind the scenes. And I got a few fun statistics to show. Not fun, that's not the right word, but just very intriguing and insightful, as well as just talking about how many are trying to unionize that type of work now. So you can let me know your thoughts on it too, hence why you're here. But so first off, how did you get into this type of profession?
Yeah, so I have all the thoughts about like our rights versus our work, and some of my thoughts are complicated. I will get into that later, but like I
It's
don't think you even
it's
have
never
to
going to stop being complicated.
No, it never. And you don't even have to like it to know that
Right?
people deserve to be less harmed, right? That's kind of where I stand. I would not recommend anybody do this. I think it's too difficult. I would tell somebody to choose a different life. It's the one I'm, you know, sort of fell into and made the best of, and have, knock on wood, survived so far. But I cannot recommend it. I think it's too hard. It's too annoying, even if you
Yeah.
survive like so far I have. But yeah, you don't even have to like it or approve of it. You can still think it's sleazy or gross, but you do have to acknowledge, not you, but the world has to acknowledge it will never go away. And therefore, how can we make it less harmful for all those involved? And if you don't care about people being harmed, then I don't really know how to talk to you, because that's kind of sick.
Yeah, it's kind of
but
like
but
talking to a war criminal. Is like, I think this
yeah.
conversation was over before we even got started.
Well, yeah, I'm operating from the premise that most people would like the youngest and most vulnerable of us to make it to their older years, instead of being, you know, killed in a ditch before they even got a chance.
There's an
So,
image. Yeah.
well, that's a lot of who's in sex work, is young broke people, mostly women, but
Hmm.
not all, lots of men too. So, I just
Yeah.
want them to be killed less and hurt and all the other harms less. So anyway, soapbox, sorry. But in terms of the portrayals in film, I'm sure you've seen there's been funny ones, there's been offensive ones, there's been ones that are overly complimentary, like they're too good and it's not always really that good. Um,
Yeah. Absolutely. And it kind of even just goes back to, I mean,
Gigolo, have you seen that
yeah, that there's that one. I still haven't seen the TV show version of it, but
with Rob
uh,
Schneider?
oh well, not that one. I thought you were talking about the Richard Gere film.
Oh yeah, no, American Gigolo is a classic. That's a
Okay, but
no.
there's this other one on Stars now I haven't seen yet, but I like what they've done with shows like Power. But I need to check it out. It's called P Valley.
I don't know that. I'll have to watch.
It's that's about strippers. I forget where it's based, but it's interesting how so many just assume it's only in one area. This kind of work, and it's like, no, this goes from anyone to escorts to, you know,
Only
adult modeling.
porn, peep show.
Right.
I in Times Square we still have a peep show here in New York City. It's gross. It's not, doesn't do anything for me, but I went once because I'm eternally curious. And, but you're right.
Curiosity, man.
I
Yeah.
don't know that I need to go again, but it was an experience. So, um, probably Deuce Bigelow, Male Gigolo is a comedy. It's Rob Schneider from Saturday. He was in Saturday Night Live, and I think they made a
Hmm.
sequel, Deuce Bigelow, European Gigolo. It's very silly.
I'll
Um,
never forget when Roger Ebert gave a hysterical review and actually combated him when the comedians involved couldn't take a joke. And he's like, hey, I'm not attacking you. I'm just telling you your movie sucks.
yeah, right? I mean, and I wouldn't call Deuce Bigelow an excellent film, but it's funny. And for some reason, the trope of like a male gigolo doesn't make the world fear and angry. They don't get fearful. They don't want to infantilize it. They sort of make fun of it sometimes. It's a little bit silly, but I think they don't worry as much for the male's safety because, men are usually bigger than women and all that stuff. Physically, the public doesn't think of them as in as much danger as they do when the sex worker is a woman. Like I said, probably largely for physical reasons.
Yeah,
Um,
comedian Aisha Tyler brought that up, how it was just, and she's not the first, but there was this one hysterical interview I just remember her bringing up. I think it was one of her books, and she's just talking about how it's like, why is it that, when people get caught cheating, the woman instantly gets the whore treatment, but the guy gets off. Oh, he's an asshole. I'm just like, what?
Yeah, and neither of them might be. I mean, those things are complicated, but maybe
Yeah.
because it's considered effort for men to get laid and total non-effort for women to get laid. And so we like things that require effort. We never really reward behavior that is the default lowest energy state behavior, right?
Hmm.
We like people who are successful or get up early or till the farms or everything everything we revere
Yeah.
requires effort, and getting laid for women, if you're good looking, does not. Uh, why? Well, because you guys will give it away, and so I blame you. Just kidding, but
Yeah, well, God, that's the
yep.
other thing too. Why is it that guys who are responsible for so much shit always play the victim card? It's like, no, no, no. You sewed this together. You created this well. So
Well,
you
right.
swim in
Like they want sex, but I always wondered why they don't like sluts. And truth be told, in my world, I've seen that men often do like sluts. They just can't admit it. Um, that
it.
said, when they fall in love, of course, we're jealous creatures. When you love somebody, it can be scary to think that they might prefer sleeping with somebody else and then maybe even being with somebody else, right?
Hmm.
There's the swinger thing, and there's people who truly can separate love and sex, but the data shows that swingers do break up more than non-swingers. Everybody breaks up a lot.
Interesting. Wow.
Well,
That
and how good is the data? And everybody breaks up a
I
lot.
thought it was just when you were in open, which was to me always. I have no experience with it, but it always sounded to me like kind of a closed off denial.
Yeah.
Like, hey, we're together, but I know you're coming home late because you're with someone else.
Well, and I mean, I have friends who are in open relationships and they claim that it doesn't diminish, that they can handle and they're not jealous. And I struggle to totally believe them, but that's just my own judgment because when I've been deeply in love, I have felt a little possessive. I try to navigate that as we all do, but I'm a human being like anybody.
Nice.
Hypocritical given my career choice, but hey, nobody ever said we were logical creatures, right?
What is logic nowadays? Um,
That's the truth.
there's so much do as I say, not as I do. So on Sexual Alpha, I saw some very awesome stats.
Okay.
16% of men said they'd paid for sex at least once, and 0.5% say they do it at least once per year.
1 6 or 6 0? 16?
16.
Okay. And
97% of people arrested for buying prostitutes in the US are male. So that checks out, I think. Between
yeah,
70,000 and 80,000 are arrested for prostitution each year in the US. And these arrests cost the taxpayers about 200 million.
stupid. And it doesn't, the recidivism rate has got to be like 100%. I don't think they did some documentary and they showed the guys being forced to go to one of these John classes when they get busted for picking up. They were all in there laughing and high fiving each other, and I'm quite sure it does not stop them from doing it again.
Yeah, it's almost kind of an NBA player kind of logic to it, where it's just like, well, so I said something messed up, but I did the apology and I still get paid anyway. So it's kind of it is almost like a dysfunctional classroom. I mean, my as a
Sure.
side reference, my mother used to do teaching at an inner city, and they
Okay.
were forcing everyone to pass every student,
Oh, good. Of
and the students knew that, so therefore they weren't obligated to learn anything. So
course.
pretty broken system there. And I think a lot of this does seem to be very close-minded, and half the time we don't even want to take into account any kind of statistic, any kind of learning, any kind of environment. The
Sure.
stats continue. About 57% of Americans think paying and accepting money for this act is morally wrong, and then um, it goes on to so many other statistics, but I thought it was interesting here. On average, it's cheaper to get prostitution in Colombia than in most any other country in the world.
Okay.
What's your thought on that? On how it's all kind of about the area. It's kind of even beyond just any kind of culture.
Yeah, I mean, I imagine the going rate must largely depend upon the cost of living.
Hmm.
Just like most jobs depend upon cost of living, and of course, maybe the quality or the freedom. I mean, it's going to have to pay more if it's criminalized because there's more risk. Although in America, the one county in Nevada where it's perfectly allowed outside of, well, there's two counties, I guess. Anyway, they're both in Nevada, somewhere not far from Reno, somewhere not far from Vegas. And
Mhm.
those brothels, it's very expensive because they're completely above board. There's no skimming and tax avoidance and all that. They're paying. And they have to do medical checks and they have to, jump through all the legal loopholes. So the rates are actually quite high. And guys can't get away with any bad behavior. There's cameras and security, and no woman working there is going to let her boundaries be pushed sexually or safety wise or otherwise, because he's being timed when he's at the brothel. He can't get away with staying longer. He can't get away with being unsafe because she's subject to medical exams. She's not going to risk her career for this one client, no matter what he offers her, because if she catches something, she's done. Her career is over
Mhm.
because they have mandatory testing. So clients are often very unhappy with it because they feel less power for the money they spend. And one of the major problems with getting sex work recognized as work is actually the customers. They don't enjoy being thought of as work
Right.
because that's not sexy to them. Is They want to think you like them. They like to push boundaries. They want to see if they can get unsafe sex. They want to see if they can get more time for less money. And when there's no legal system, they can get away with a lot more misbehavior. So um, the we are up against a barrier of wanting to be recognized as real work, but the
Mhm.
the other half of the transaction hates that very thought,
Yeah.
and does not like it thought of as being work. I mean, the GFE is the big seller in my business. The less you act like it's work, the happier the customer is. And I don't think much other work is like that. When you go to Starbucks, they don't have to pretend they love giving you coffee for free to get you to return.
Oh,
Um,
well, in many ways, it does seem kind of like drugs, where many view it as, or even just black market for going for guns. People are going for assuming you're the supplier, and there's nothing more to it. But
yeah.
this is different in that, yes, you are pretending to initiate a plausible relationship and sometimes have it be a recurring deal.
Well, and yeah, and when men are used to not paying for something, of course, there's cultural, like you said, 57% of people think it's morally wrong, even though, in most marriages for almost all of human history, the woman did not make any money. So it was a financial relationship. Of course, he paid for everything and he got the woman.
Yeah.
Maybe you had kids, maybe you didn't, maybe you got divorced, maybe you didn't, but it would be like if you went to Starbucks all your life and it was free and then suddenly they started charging you. You'd probably be like, "Hey, what the hell?" So you wouldn't like it, right? So
Hmm.
that's another problem with sex work as work, is that if if the customer in any business can find the same product for free, they probably should try to, right? That's smart consumerism. So if you're competing with free, there's a lot of hatred of pay. Now, why would anybody pay when, sure, dating is possible for free or for cheap anyway, cheaper?
Yep.
Well, the reasons they pay are either freedom. You don't have to call her ever again if you don't want. As Charlie Sheen said, you pay him to go away. There's a lot of truth to that. You don't have to lie and say you love her or
Yep.
say, all that stuff. Often the woman is physically out of the guy's league. Either she's considerably younger, or she's just way more beautiful than what he could get for free. Obviously, another big one is that he's married, right?
Hmm.
And the payment is for her to not fuck up his life, um, where an affair would. Uh,
Hmm.
the Some of them are, a lot lately are sort of socially awkward people who don't have a lot of experience dating, and a professional dater is very good at putting people at ease and very good at usually getting along with strangers, professional at dating. So there are the sort of socially awkward set that choose it as a route to have a great date when dating on Tinder does not typically go well for them. So there's lots of reasons. And then I've even heard nowadays, in inflationary times in Manhattan, where I live, that taking a girl on 3 dinner dates to get to the third date where you get laid costs way more than an escort. If you have to go to restaurants and bars all night several times, it ends
My
up more.
goodness.
So I'm not sure about the math. I guess it depends where you go. But
Yeah, that sounds like a big dent in anyone's wallet, though. Um,
sure, sure. So
so prostitutecollective.net had an interesting one on more than 70% of UK sex workers have previously worked in healthcare, education, or the voluntary sector,
Mm.
and was increasing because poverty in their various areas. But they also found that of migrant ones, sex workers, less than 6% have been trafficked. So I think that was interesting how that kind of put away that whole claim that, hey, they must be on drugs or they must have been abused or their services fund a trafficking organization. It's like not the case. It's really
I
no
mean,
different than back pages.
yeah, I mean, trafficking is relatively rare. Where it does happen, it's horrific, of course.
Yeah,
They're calling traffickers anyone who does management, like online work and ads and answering emails for the sex worker. They're calling that person a trafficker.
right.
You that person may not be an abuser at all. They may basically be a assistant, and
Yeah.
I think that's wrong. Their trafficker was meant to be someone who was sort of abusive, taking too much of the money,
Hmm.
a negative thing. And many of them that are being now given felonies for trafficking are not at all harmful people. They're just working in an industry, often, yeah, migrants, people who traditional better jobs are not available to them for lots of reasons.
I almost find
The
it as
statistic
bad
about
as sharing movies unofficially online. I'll often see people use the term bootleg or piracy, and it's like these
content,
people didn't make money off of it. They're just sharing. I mean, the companies secretly want you to share their goods because
yeah,
that tells you there's an audience. But it's interesting how I will still see people throw that out. I'm like, guys, we did a private screening or we did a something on Dropbox and shared a movie between us. No income was made from that other person's work, so that's not the right terminology. In no way we're going to buy this movie multiple times. In no way did we say, you
of
know,
course.
let's make money off so and so.
And those companies are doing just fine. And I think
Yeah.
they're, yeah, I mean, there are situations, we all get emails every week from guys trying to finesse us into uh letting them manage us, and they're trying to get you to fall in love and then turn over all your money to them. They're trying to flip the script, right? They're trying to BFE you, boyfriend experience, and finesse you. And I admire the chutzpah, but it doesn't work with the smart ones. But they'll continue to try, and those are just people who, I don't know, can't get a regular job or don't want to. And there's lots of reasons people try to do that.
Already
Um,
lack any people skills.
maybe, I mean, who knows? They the statistic about them having worked in healthcare and education things. Well, that's just where women work, right? I mean,
Hmm.
those are jobs traditionally more available to females, so that's
Nice.
not surprising. I know lots of sex workers who are single mothers, and because of sex work, their kid can be in private school. The mom can work, 8 hours a week and make what a doctor makes, so she can be home with her children. There's no other job that will pay that these women have access to that will pay even remotely that well, not even close. So it is a choice. And are all of them thrilled about it? Not necessarily, but it is the best choice of what's available to them. Uh, and
Yeah.
that's largely financial, but it's a time thing. Going back to the father of their children would be worse.
Oof.
Um,
Yeah.
so it's complicated, like most things, right?
Yeah. Don't even get me started on religious families who find out about this. It's just like they will always. It's even more fascinating to me when I see a scandal involving a religious family because it's like, okay, well, now you're using that to hide behind a flaw that you could just
Interestingly,
address.
the vast majority of our clients are right wing religious conservative men.
Uh,
Yeah, and I think there's something that maybe when it's more forbidden and transgressive, it's more exciting. I think
Hence
also,
why they find it appealing.
well, they're more likely to be married and want to try to stay married for image reasons, for power, for religious reasons. Um, they're older, and that's who has the money, right? Um,
Wow.
but there are a lot of up and coming young men who are doing this. They're not necessarily super religious or conservative. It's not a sexism thing. They're not trying to have powerful women. It's just an economic thing. They say they have great dates that go the way they want and they spend less money. It's just a logical move for them.
Damn.
You can't argue with the numbers, and I don't think that's necessarily good, but a lot of them have this idea that when they're in their 20s and working on their career, they're not ready to get married and have children anyway. They don't want to lie to some girl who might want that. So they'll just see companions for a few years, and then maybe in the in a few years think about getting serious and dating for marriage later. So it's not illogical. It's not.
It's so wild though that it came
Well,
to that.
I mean, seems maybe lonely. I
Yeah,
mean, but
unhappy
maybe
marriage.
not. Maybe not. Maybe they're fine with it. I mean, people tend to be pretty rational. To your point about drugs, there's definitely drug use, but I mean, I don't know about that. I don't do drugs. I don't see people who do drugs. I don't have any friends who do drugs. But whether the percentage of people in sex work doing drugs is higher or lower than the Gen Pop, I'm not sure. I mean, I think a lot of people do drugs in America and in the world in general, right?
Oh, totally. I used to use Delta 8 THC gummies for sleep.
Sure.
That's fine. But if you, unfortunately, and I found out like anyone else, if you use too much of it, it does cause anxiety. So, but
Did it?
it,
That's interesting.
in
My
no way am I condoning it, saying, "Oh, it's awful, it's garbage." No, it's a fine product, but like anything, you got to use it in moderation, otherwise it'll just become a dent in your road.
I
But
never liked weed. It made me antisocial and sleepy and hungry. But my sister really liked it. She smoked so much pot in college. They didn't have all these gummies and things back then. But she got serious paranoia. Like
yeah,
borderline like she thought things were she would have been one of these that believed in all the conspiracy theories nowadays because
oh god,
she went nuts. She had thoughts that were not connected to reality. And so she quit, and I don't think she's done it since. It's been more than 20 years. But for me, it was never. I just didn't like it. I don't
no,
know.
that's fair enough. I mean,
I
uh,
wish
I'm
I
not a
might.
big drinker, but I know, in no way am I going to become one of the 50s, you know, prohibition types who's like, oh, do away with it all. It's bad. And it's like, no,
Be.
just there's an audience for anything.
And you're to your point about moderation. There are people that cannot handle sex work, like they go down the rabbit hole of addiction to companions, and they ruin their lives. They spend way too much money. They ruin their family. I mean, maybe you can get addicted to anything. I'm not sure. But that does happen even in this business where they go hog wild and they gotta see everybody and they lose their job and flip out and yeah,
I'm
it's
sure if they got any bad social skills, that's definitely going to mess them up.
maybe or just one I'm thinking of who really ruined his life was lived in a small town that he hated. He was from a huge international city, moved somewhere for work that he really hated, was bored, was super bored, and he made a lot of money and had nothing to spend it on. And so
Wow.
he found out about companions and he went nuts and then sugar babies and then girlfriends and then yeah, he fucked up his whole life. He's okay now. He's kind of rebuilding it, but I think it was a problem of time and money, right? He had too much time and too much money. And
Hmm.
he should have gotten a different hobby, I guess, or something. I don't know.
It almost sounds like one of the many who have a midlife crisis because they have a strict family who
Yes.
essentially tells them you must do this, so they
Oh my
do the
god,
job.
totally. He was deeply Catholic and midlife crisis. You're absolutely right.
He never thought this is what I want to do. He never developed a actual persona outside of work. So there you go. It's
Maybe. That's astute. I guess that's a trope, huh? I didn't grow up religious, so I don't have enough shame. That's
my
part.
family fortunately said if you want to be do that, you can have the option. But they were very, very liberal about it, just saying, hey, just take it easy. Just like even the religions of the world classes, just breathe it all in, understand the different formats, and decide what is going to make your world really compile together. But
That's nice. That's
it's
smart.
it's easier said than done. You're still gonna have that judgmental neighbor who's like, "What religion are you?" I'm not judging. Yeah, sure you're not.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't know what city you're in.
I'm in Dallas.
Well, isn't Dallas a little more cosmopolitan than it used to be? I'm not sure.
It can be. There's still some
Some of that. I know.
the issue I find between downtown Dallas and downtown Fort Worth is you still got to pass through a lot of lesser inner cities. And so it's just very annoying just seeing how so blatantly poor in some places versus middle class versus elite it really is. Like you just can't hide it. it's very apparent the minute you pass through whichever part of town you're in.
That's unfair. I had a girlfriend who lived in Fort Worth, and she was so mad that Dallas was growing and getting too big. She was a real cowgirl. She didn't like big towns.
There
She,
is a lot of rivalry. You still see,
yeah,
even with Austin and Houston, you will see people say, I'll work with you, but unless you're from that city. I'm like, what's going on here?
she said she's like, I bring a bag lunch when I go to Dallas because I'm not spending any money there. And like, she was sort of kidding, but then
That's the other thing
she could
too.
defend Texas against the whole world. Of course, she's a
They
Texan.
have kid, but they're really not. So it's like any of
Sure.
your friends playing a prank on you. It's like you keep saying that word. I don't think you know what it means.
I mean, I love how much Texas loves America and Texas loves Texas. I have the
Here you go,
original.
baby.
It's great. I have the San Jacinto flag in my foyer because I used to work for an oil company that was headquartered in Houston.
Oh,
And
really?
yeah, and I loved my time. I used to be in Texas every other week for like, gosh, 6 or 7 years. I really enjoyed Texas. I think it's a spectacular state that is unapologetically pro Texas. It's great.
Nice.
It's they like themselves, and they have every right to. There's a lot of great stuff there, especially
There
Dallas.
is. Yeah, in no way am I trying to show my
Yeah,
own state. It's interesting how it goes in different forms, and you never know who's into this versus that.
sure. I mean, we shit on New Jersey, but in the end, we got neighbors.
I've encountered so many people from New Jersey, and they hate it when I do an impression of like from a Saturday Night Live or something. They're like, "It's not how we talk." I'm like, "I'm sure it's not. I'm
It
just."
is. I read a
It's
thing that it's widely regarded as the ugliest accent in the world, the New York, New Jersey accent. Like
interesting.
abrasive and
That sounds
yeah.
pretty self-deprecating mixed in with cynicism.
I mean, still, that's fitting with the type of people in this part of the world. Yeah. Kind of angry, like, but still, we'll help you out, but still tell you to go fuck yourself while we're helping you out. That's how we are. We got shit
It's
to do.
wild.
We got
That's
stuff.
just it too. It's interesting how it's so common now. I see a mixture of the insult comedian persona mixed in with the but just kidding. I'm like, yeah, sure you are.
Yeah, it's salty, but I'll tell you, nobody will stand up for you more than a New Yorker because some nonsense happens here, like at least every decade, something really bad happens. And these people, they you cannot keep them down. And they're also very proudly American, right? The financial center, nine
Oh,
11
wow.
happened here. There's a lot of security here. So there's a lot to argue about. But in the end, New York is where all the capitalism stuff began. I mean, so there's a sort of patriotism here, a little different from Texas, but not totally so, right? And
Lovely.
yeah, it's nice, right? I mean, the Staten
I
Island people, they won't acknowledge Manhattan at all. They hate us. But in the end, they're fine.
so there's some of that same off the grid kind of feuds that people only get if they're in said city. It's
Sure.
almost like baseball kind of in football, but they're doing it in the form of our state, and we're shitting on each other.
Oh, we have a name for so when we fight among ourselves in sex work, we have a great name that you'll like for it. We call it the hierarchy, like hierarchy.
Oh, wow.
And it's the fight between who is a higher price or lower price, who sees more clients or fewer clients, and because we're a bunch of bitches that fight with each other too. But in the end, we're all trying to. We have a reference system where we keep each other alive by behind the scenes telling each other that's a good guy, that's a bad guy. So even like there's girls I don't like. There's plenty of girls who don't like me. Women, I mean, not girls. Sorry,
Right.
sexist. And even the ones you hate will like participate in the reference system because God, it's just like Dallas and Fort Worth. We might hate each other, but we're stuck here together. So hold my hand, idiot. Let's do
Got
this
to be
together.
proud of who we are, even if we're self-loathing.
Well, we're stuck, right?
Where else are you gonna go?
Like family, I guess.
Family. I was fortunate enough to have adult film star Derek Pierce on the show previously, and he talked a lot about how we all want the same thing.
Sure.
We just don't know how to say it.
Yes, this is true.
And I loved how he kind of had a confrontational kind of approach. He's like, anyone talks rumors, we're gonna go outside, we're gonna have a conversation. I was like, damn.
Wow. Okay, I like it.
Because especially in his part of the industry, you get so many people who are like, don't work with that guy. He or she is too rough, or they're just an asshole. They just, or they have
Yeah.
poor hygiene. I'm like, yeah, that's definitely a no in any area or any kind of profession.
And it's funny in porn, male porn stars get the brunt of like they get made fun of. They don't get paid as well. It's funny. They don't get the stardom nearly as much, except
Really?
for
I thought
well,
they
a
got
few of
paid.
them.
Well, what I know.
They don't get paid well as the women, not even close. To my knowledge, I've never done porn, so I might be wrong, but that was my understanding.
Yeah.
But yeah, the
Uh,
rough funny what looks good on film. Like I used to really like to watch like Rocco Siffredi, but I don't know. I might be terrified to get fucked that way. I don't know. I
yeah.
mean, it might
It,
be fun, but I'd be scared. Yeah.
even then, you would still. I think my issue is with how toxic the internet can be. You would still have just a bunch of people just stalking you online. I'm like, good lord, dude,
Yeah.
I don't want your number.
Well, and I think it's being a male porn star is not that easy to get hard on command, to finish on command, to like
Mm-hmm.
it's it is actually a skill. I mean, I think so. I knew a guy who he saw a girl who also did porn, who was a companion and a porn star, and they got along really well. He would see her from time to time. He was a civilian, he had a regular corporate job, but she decided to film a gangbang porn, and so she needed a
Oh,
100 men. So she called him and
I
was
got
like,
your number.
well, and this guy said yes. He was like, "What the hell? I'm single." Like, and she said you could wear sunglasses and we won't, you'll just be in the background. And he took a chance, and he said he could not do it. He could not get hard, and he could not be part of this gangbang. So he never ended up in the film. It got cut. But he said he was so impressed with the guys who could like go to town in front of 99 other men because he couldn't. He got stage fright.
Well, and that's a good point too. I have been fortunate to be on film sets, just doing some extra work or production assistant stuff, and same kind of deal. You're going to meet so many personas. Some are very intimidating, and but they all ultimately fall under the time is money. If
Yeah,
you can't get this done before lunch break, you're off
sure,
of here. And it's nothing personal. It's just so and so referred me to you, and now their word doesn't mean anything. Or
sure.
and
Reliability is probably the main key to success. I think the only way I was able to pay my rent and survive is I was reliable. I never missed a flight. I never flaked on a guy. It wasn't about the money, of course, but these rich guys, it's not the money, it's their time. If you waste their time,
mm-hmm.
you're done. You're out of their lives. And that's a big enough punishment because you don't get an opportunity to meet people like that very often. And some of them really
Yeah.
like you and can do huge things for you. I never really took advantage of that, but I know women who've started businesses and married clients and really elevated their social status because of sex work. Not that
Wow.
that's not always a given, but it does happen. And so wasting a powerful person's time, or like you said, somebody who's paying a bunch of crew and doing a shoot, like it's not only is it rude, but it's stupid.
Well, and there's all those other film crew members also. They know how, they don't have a problem doing any kind of movie, but they'll often go under a different alias because they know how they're going to instantly get judged the minute people find out they've worked on, you know, a program you can't see if you're under 18.
Sure. I know a lot of makeup artists who have two makeup artist profiles.
Oh,
One,
really? That makes
yeah, when
sense.
they do like bridal and children's makeup, and the other one they do porn because it pays the bills. And apparently, doing porn makeup is harder because it has to stay on. And
That makes sense. I knew there are some stuntmen who also had to be the stunt dick, so to speak.
sure,
That same kind of deal is like not really, but
job,
the beauty of that is if the movie's good or bad, it doesn't really matter. you know,
right?
you get work because people know you behind the scenes. And I almost feel like a lot of this judgment behind the scenes is just as bad as video games. Video games have never been actually scientifically proven to have caused all these incel gunmen and shooters,
Yeah, of course.
but often they're still the scapegoat because parents don't play it. Well,
Sure,
not
they
all
don't
parents, but
understand it.
they're just like, you're melting your brain. You're becoming a dumbass. I'm like, well, if you're already very dumb and having no social interaction, games might give you some, you know, some motivation, so to speak, to be a shithead, but they're
Thing
not
we don't
actually
understand.
telling you.
They used to blame punk music back in the
Hmm.
80s,
You're going to
and I
become
think
a demon worshiper.
yeah, Ozzy Osbourne and all that, and they um they now know a lot. Games do a lot of good things for the brain, like spatial awareness and
If anything, they
reflexes.
take out the misbehaving stuff by you're doing it in a virtual world. So you're,
Right. There was some study that when crime shows used to be on, this is when cable, before even on demand, when you had to watch stuff live. And so
mhm,
like the Thursday night, like CSI type of
set
show
your
would be on.
VCR, yeah,
Yeah.
your
I mean,
DVR.
well, they said violent crime would go down largely because people stayed home and didn't go out and get drunk and go to a bar and end up in a fight and, all that goes along with that.
There you
They,
go. The bad judgment didn't happen.
Sure. I mean, staying home and playing a video game. And yeah, to your point, the outlet, you cannot suppress people's outlets for rage and yeah, pretend violence. Of course you don't want people to do it in real life, and that
Hmm.
should be punished, always will be. But people need a steam valve. They need to fuck, they need to curse, they need to be anonymous online and pretend to be
Yep.
somebody else because it's more fun than reality.
Bingo.
Um all of that has always existed and always will need to. Video games are just when it crosses over and somebody wants to do problems and do shenanigans in real life, obviously that's not the majority because most people play video games and most people are not shooting up schools.
Yeah. It's
It can't be that. Video games are monstrously huge in Asia and they don't even really have a school shooting problem.
pretty much. I'm kind of the same
No.
way with just kind of any kind of videos where I'm like, hey,
Mhm.
I'm not for watching all these morbid or gross videos. And same thing with a video game. If I don't game anymore, but hey, if a video game is giving you the option to do something gross, cool, let it happen. Give it an adult rating, whatever. It's just you
Sure.
might as well invite the curiosity so you prevent someone from doing that in person.
Sure. And pretending that people don't have a sort of need for a steam valve that might include pretending violence in a safe way, not doing
Bingo.
is
Pretending.
well, of course, but that's denying reality. It's the same thing as denying that, like a lot of people right now want to deny that teenagers fuck, and like there's this weird.
Yeah.
I taught sex education when I was a senior in high school. We taught it to middle school
Oh,
students.
really?
Well,
Pretty
because in the
cool.
inner city, the average age of loss of virginity was like 12, and so we knew that,
And
and so
yet
they
there's all this defunding now. People are
well,
like, don't have sex ed. I'm like, well, then they're gonna get curious.
I know. What are you going to stop them from fucking with all those hormones that are happening at puberty? It's nonsense. And I,
Yeah.
we were 17, 18. We learned that these younger kids would talk to us in a way they wouldn't talk to adults because we were older, but not like a lot older. So they trusted us more, right?
Hmm.
So that's why they sent us in instead of like some 40-year-old that a middle schooler wouldn't even talk to. But now I'm sure that program wouldn't be allowed. We would have been called pedophiles or something talking to, and of course we were not.
Even though
But
we're trying to, it's a gray area. There's going to be someone who, did something immature at an early age, but they still got to figure out how to care for their baby and,
mhm.
well, and just the fact that they lost their virginity at that young an age.
Sure, it happens a lot. I don't know. My sister had kids when her kids they're older now, but when they were teenagers, I remember her being very uncomfortable about having to talk about adult material with her children. And I remember thinking, your discomfort is not your child's problem. That's a you problem, right?
Right?
Your kids are gonna fuck. Hopefully not too soon, but they're gonna fuck because they're human beings and everybody does. And
Right.
so I suggest you get comfortable with that reality rather than play ostrich, which is weird. So I don't know, like same thing with violence. I think there's better channels for it. I don't know what they used to do 1,000 years ago. Guess they sent young men off into war. I guess that's what we used to do.
That, or you do something other kind of lowbrow, like be a wrestler, or
Yeah. Yeah, boxing and things, right?
I did martial arts when I was like in junior high. And it wasn't for
Was it
me
fun?
because I wasn't mature. I just thought, hey, this will be instant. I'm like, no.
Did you like it?
uh, I don't know if I would have liked it. It really depends. I wasn't in a mature frame of mind, and my teacher was kind of a just do or die kind of guy. So I think it really depends on your teacher
Sure.
and your frame of mind if you're in a good spot. But like anything, if you're not prepared to make time for it, it's not going to be worth it anyway. So
Well, yeah, everything take and martial arts take years and years to get really good, right? I mean, that's a long game.
I still have respect for it, and I will call out people who are pretending saying I know how to, I know kung fu. I'm like, you took one class, asshole.
Yeah, I mean, calm down.
You're,
Which one did you study?
I'm sure it was just like a beginner
Hmm. My dad
self
did.
defense.
That's cool. My dad did judo when he was young.
Oh, so
I
he's
think
going
it's a
into.
lot of grappling. I don't know. I never took it, but
I think it is a mixture of that, and uh, I have much respect for anyone who can do Krav Maga and Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, but every once in a while you'll see an announcer who's introducing someone, and you can tell they don't know the different styles apart, and they're unintentionally kind of offending someone. Like I think there was that recently. There was like an animated movie that was out recently, and someone
uh-huh.
was saying, "Hey, you guys, how do you like playing these roles?" But he clearly thought they were live action. He's like,
Oh,
"No,
really?
we're playing cartoon characters. We're in a voice booth."
That's funny. Yeah, we did not actually. It's not me. That's
Yeah.
I had a girlfriend in high school who became a black belt in Taekwondo, like the one where you like kick people in the head. I mean, she was
Ooh,
real flexible, real athletic. She was a track athlete. She was a gifted athlete in general.
sounds like a mixture of kickboxing. Don't quote me on that, but
Yeah, something like that. It was. I took two Krav Maga classes
oh,
in
sweet.
when I lived in California, and I sucked, of course. But kind of made me want to see if I like because I've never been in a physical fight. I'm not going to win at my size,
I
but
don't
I
want
kind
to
of want to
fight.
see if I
As many violent action movies as I've watched or
can.
outrageous horror films, I have. What do I want to fight for?
Have you ever like actually gotten in a fight?
No, I've been pretty good at just getting like kind of.
Smart.
Uh, I was in kindergarten as far back, and I remember someone just stomped over me, and so that was my kind of opening to the world where I was like, yeah, I don't trust anyone in this world. That was
I
like
was
my.
I was little, and my older sister was bigger. She's still taller. She's 5'11". I'm 5'6", and so I was a big biter because that's all I had. And I would bite her right. I mean, not like now.
I'm a
It was
snake.
when I was 4. Not I didn't do this last week, but I would bite her right in the ass, right in the butt cheek. And, it was a solid self defense move.
Oh my god, that's great.
Yeah, my parents had to call me off after a while. Like you couldn't be the kid who bites everybody.
I got in
Um,
trouble for my brother's 4 years younger than me, and he can kick my ass because he's bigger than me. So people are like, "Oh, he's your older brother." I'm like, "Shut the fuck up! He's not my older brother." But
that sucks. He
he
grew more. Yeah.
he always gets me in a hell. But one thing I am always good at doing is headbutting him,
Okay. You
and
always got that.
I had to be told stop that. That could literally,
I mean, your brother, that's who you get to pummel. That's the rule in life.
that
Like a
was my only
fair.
weapon. Just headbutt the shit.
We were, I mean, older sisters. We were 2.5 years apart. And my parents had an apartment in Hawaii. We lived in
Oh,
Northern.
so it's already a crib space.
Well, it was just a 4-hour flight. So a lot of Californians go over to Hawaii a lot,
Sure,
like or Mexico, because it's not that far.
why not?
So they went off to like go run errands, and we were, I don't know, 10 and 12, just little preteen jerks, you know. She wanted to play volleyball, and I wanted to play tennis at like the little apartment, tennis court and volleyball thing on the beach. And we couldn't agree on which one to play, but we couldn't do either one of them without the other, right? And it
See,
descended into such a fight that she went in the kitchen and grabbed one of the knives. Now she didn't try to come after me, but she was brandishing it like, "You're gonna play volleyball with me, bitch." And my dad comes back to the apartment, and we're standing there crying, and she's got the cake knife, and
nice.
he asked what happened, and we explained that it's a fight in Hawaii over whether we play tennis or volleyball, and he forever called us the Jewish American princesses. Like for the next 20 years, he was. This is what I work so fucking hard for, is for you guys to stab each other over which sport you're gonna play in Hawaii. You spoiled jerks.
Oh, parents always take it so personally. It's like this doesn't.
It wasn't about you guys.
It really doesn't show on you. It's only people only take this personally if you are like insulting or like, where'd you get that motor mouth from?
Right? Well, siblings, it's good for us, right? Mhm. Yeah, my sister, I got outed as I mean, I've done lots of other things, graduate school and science and worked in oil and done other, but the sex work part of my life, I had a stalker and he outed me, and that dissolved my family relationship for 2 years. They didn't speak to me. And to lose your family, even, your brother that you pummel or your sister that you bite, you think you're okay, but it's like losing your anchor in the ocean.
Mm,
Um, and when we all finally reconciled and they've decided to love me, even given my choices, which is a grace I don't deserve and can't repay. We don't talk about what I do. They hate it, but they love me. And so I'll never bite her again because she's still nice to me, even given the shame I've brought my family. And when I had the stalker, she said, "Did you ever think about us? Did you, because sometimes stalkers go after your family to hurt you. Luckily, this person
mm.
this person did not. But the truth is, I had not thought about that. I was young and wild and greedy and dumb, and I did not think about other people. I just wanted to do what I wanted to do, right? So
Fair enough. I mean, we all learn to just kind of think outside the box.
yeah, as you hopefully you mature, and luckily nothing happened with the stalker, but well, I put him in prison, and now he's rebuilt his life, and so far so good. But it yeah, your actions touch other people in ways that sometimes you can't predict, right?
Yeah,
Maybe that's good. It keeps you from going postal or doing anything that's too bad.
I would hope it does.
Well, hopefully you should anyway, but for me, like, it's good to think about family.
Right? Oh, man.
Probably should have 20 years ago, but hey. Oh well.
So, as a fun transition, you said it before, you're a big entertainment hound, a big
Sure.
film buff, and you guest
Yeah.
starred on Compound Media and Gunning the Sacred Cow. They're a fun collective.
Yeah.
Uh, how did you get into movies and TV growing up, other
Well, I
than
mean, I've
getting
always
in
been a
mock
fan. My sister
content?
has a master's degree in film theory. My father's from Europe, and we grew up watching all the
Oh,
old musical stuff. He's an immigrant to America, and he loves America more than those of us who were just born here, and that's all we know. So this sort of
nice,
the golden age stuff, like Gene Kelly, Fred Astaire, like all those American musicals. I mean, that was our fodder. Like,
sweet.
um, and I love Bollywood movies. I think they're sort of innocent and lovely, and they always have
They are
dance
fun.
scenes, and they have intermissions, and they're so long. Um, and I do like stuff that scares you. Sometimes the real gory stuff starts to be a little silly,
Yeah.
but I like mysteries and creepy ones because man, they make you hang on. It's like mental chewing gum, right?
Hmm.
When you want to catch the killer, you want to know what happened.
You're looking around your corner, even though you know it's a movie.
Sure.
What
And
was
it's
that?
um and yeah, I mean, so I had a very stressful year in 2017. Everything ended up fine, but I remember asking my mom, like, okay, I got to slog through something that's going to take a few months. There's no fast forward button. It's stressful. It'll be fine, but how
Mm,
do I get through these months? And she said, go to big screen movies when you can, when you have a couple hours.
go for it.
And it is such a great dropout, especially the big screen. I missed it so much in COVID because you can't look at your phone, or you
No.
shouldn't, unlike at home, right?
Yeah.
And the sound is better, and the yeah, I mean, the theater, the a live movie theater, I still do it alone often, because it's dropping out from reality, and
I
who
always
doesn't
turn the lights off. I'm like, game time.
when you watch
Oh,
at home?
yeah, totally. I'm just like, might as well get the experience here. Got
Sure.
the 1080.
Well, and obviously I've modeled, and then it became social stuff, which was always behind the scenes video, and it's not really acting, but it's a little bit of acting. Um,
Totally. And you
so I
appreciate the work that goes into it more. It's like, it's
sure.
not just me that shows up, and the person
Oh,
who clears the checks.
I'm the talent is the least important, least talented person, I think, usually, at least in modeling. You're literally just standing there because you're a happy accident of good genetics and time. But the crew, what they can create, the is spectacular. So every time I do a shoot, it's pleasure to be around crew and see what
Hmm.
they can do. So
Oh, and don't get me wrong. I mean, the cinematographer is very invaluable, but if they're one with a big head, definitely do a background check. Make sure they're not the kind that,
really,
takes over a set from a director or, it's just,
are some of them unsufferable? They're just
Oh yeah, there are definitely some who just are talking so much smack. That shot looks bad. I'm like, you're just saying that because you didn't shoot it, asshole. You know, it's just like, come on.
Stanley Kubrick liked to make his actors like actually scared or actually miserable. Like he wanted the emotions to.
Yeah, I don't understand that at all. It's just like, dude, they are here for you, but there's a limit, you know.
Sure, you can't
And
just.
I'm not talking smack about method actors either. I mean, there's some who obviously go too far, but if you're just talking in character as the character, I get it. You know, it makes sense.
Sure.
You're
Sure.
treating it like a brand.
Well, and so many stars, like they're basically a commodity. We're going to watch Tom Cruise be Tom Cruise sometimes, or
Mm-hmm.
Julia Roberts was always Julia Roberts. And there's nothing wrong with that. But
Yeah.
I like it when they lose themselves more. I like it when the actor disappears
Oh,
more.
absolutely. I Speaking of sex work, I always love it when I see some show like SVU or Criminal Minds and the villain of that episode happens to be a former sitcom star or dramatic actor, and you're like, see, played you for a
Yeah.
fool. They,
When Kevin Costner did that great movie where he's a murderer, Mr.
Mr. Brooks.
Yeah. So I know I probably doesn't I don't know what the Rotten Tomatoes on it, but I are on it, but I love that movie. And
Oh,
Dane
it's
Cook
fair
gets
point.
killed. You're like, you can't kill Dane Cook, but they do. Sorry, spoilers. If anybody's sorry if you're listening to this and you haven't watched that movie, I just ruined it for you. Well, not really, but
I
part of
mean,
it.
in all fairness, I mean, sometimes these movies you should totally spoil them because then it makes people want to actually watch them, and then you can examine it beyond the twist. I find that if you can examine it beyond the colorful plot twist, it's actually a better movie than you give it credit for. Versus, hey, that's the billionth, 7 or 6 cents knockoff.
Good point. And well, and what was so interesting to me is this affable Kevin Costner. You never see him like that.
No, even Demi
No.
Moore, I've never seen her play a detective like that. I've never seen William Hurt be a evil, like ego-headed side of someone's split persona.
Well, and I obviously I'd be afraid of a movie where a sex worker was like abjectly evil. But there was that recent TV show with Elvis's granddaughter. Is it his granddaughter, his niece?
Oh,
Um, oh God, it
what was
was a
that?
TV show, and it was called. I just wrote it down for this girlfriend experience, right?
Oh yeah, based on the Soderbergh show, and I think he's
Yeah.
involved with the show too. But yeah,
No,
I know what
that
you
was a
mean.
movie. No, that's a different one. Riley. Oh my
But yeah, I know Riley
well,
Cogg's in
so
it.
she's not like great. Um she's not like a perfect, yeah, the girlfriend, she's kind of imperfect. She's kind of an asshole. She's kind of, and I think I liked it because that's how people really are, right?
But I know what you mean. It is always an effort to try and make sure the stereotype doesn't become too cartoonish or make people think that's how most. I get very annoyed when I see that there's a white savior or there is the woman is only the damsel and can't defend herself without the guy. And it's like, well, you're sending a message even if you don't mean it.
When people mimic media, I mean, I think Pretty Woman was probably really good for our business in the 90s
Yeah.
because every guy wanted to have his Richard Gere fantasy, and that was great for our business. So,
Yeah.
if they make a movie where the sex worker is like some garbage person, that's probably not great for our industry. I
Yeah, but
Not
I
everyone
mean,
mimics what
let's
they
say
see.
they're a supporting character. I want to make sure they're not the only negative influence in the person's life or only the
Yeah,
criminal informant. It's like, well, you're kind of saying something about that, even though
sure.
this
It's
could all backfire.
well, and Americans like things neatly tied up, like
They really do. Even
original
though,
and
isn't it funny how some of them are the same ones who hate it when it is all neatly tied up? They're like, oh, it's formulaic. I'm like, well, you asked for the happy ending, so
sure, but they do those test screenings, and particularly Americans, they hate. I read the original ending of Pretty Woman.
yeah, it was originally a
They,
dark movie for
yeah,
like
they,
trauma.
they just part ways. He dumps her, and she's back on the street, like, and that's the end of the movie, which is far more accurate, honestly.
Yeah.
Like they, usually that's the guy does not come in his limo to pick you up from the hood, but
Yeah.
but it was essentially turned into Cinderella. Okay, fine. But my
Well, what's your take on Flashdance?
this
I know it's not a sex worker movie by any stretch of the mind, but it does bring up to mind how someone wants to be a dancer. It's kind of a footloose type story. in a very sleazy world. And that
I
writer
mean,
did other movies later, like Showgirls, which is a satire, but a lot of people take legit serious.
Girls is the worst movie ever made, and
It's
it that
really shitty. Don't get me wrong; it's a bad movie, and I love Verhoeven, but that movie, I've tried rewatching it, and I'm like, no, no, no.
I mean, that act. What's her name in Showgirls? Like,
Liz Berkeley, yeah.
I mean, the only better piece of acting she ever did was in Saved by the Bell, where she took too many like diet pills and
Yeah.
flipped it. Like she just poor thing. But she was lovely. I mean, the dancing, the shape she got in, I'll hand it to her. She went to her trainer.
Too many cooks in the kitchen too, like because you are seeing so many people who act like they're in a crappy, like late night HBO movie, and then you see other people in it who are taking it very campy. I'm like, so again, no one was giving the right direction on how to approach this whole subject matter. So I think they did more. And there was the one actress, the black gal who gets assaulted, Gina Rivera. Like she almost gave up acting because she apparently the actor accidentally socked her in the face during that scene,
Oh,
and
really?
she's already in the acting zone, so that really traumatized her. She hasn't really done much. She had a brief recurring role on the TV show The Closer, which I recommend everybody, but and which, believe it or not, actually does bring up with male prostitution subplot for one
Really?
character. Yeah, they have a character who's basically selling his body on the street, and he's get the gay for pay, so to speak, and he's having to get away from his attackers and other people who are molesting him, sometimes for free.
Oh God.
But they were also very careful about that, just showing, hey, he has a choice in this whole thing, and
Yeah. Ryan Murphy's Pose season one did a great the transgender sex worker who started on the piers and found a
oh,
great I loved that
I didn't
treatment.
realize it dealt with that. I'd only seen clips from that, so
It's good, and the treatment of somebody who's not at the high end, not privileged, and transgender, and like the very nice affection between her and a client, and how he reckons with being attracted to somebody transgender when that's he didn't know that about himself, and how he feels.
it
There's
is
one.
always so wild. I will always see that. I will see someone looking at a model, and then they find out later after the fact, oh, that's but he or she used to be him or her, and it's like, oh, come on,
It's a
beauty is
very
beauty.
sure. It's a very. I've had clients who were very curious about having that experience, but couldn't deal with the self shame, and I don't know whether the one I'm thinking of in particular. I don't know whether he ever did it or checked it off his life bucket list or didn't. I hope he did because wanted to, but he had lots of shame about it, which was a bummer.
Yeah, I
I
mean,
just would like the spandex from Flashdance to come back. That's all I'll say about like.
right?
I mean, oh my God, the 80s, right? Like I was born at the very end of the 70s. And so I was an 80s kid and the outfits, like, I think it was based on a real girl, a real woman who.
Yeah, the Esterhaus guy said on all of those movies that he just kept for the so-called research, he would actually encounter various real life people, but at the same time, it's like, well, some of that's going to be lost on the shelf, and you're going to have to take with a grain of salt. And
I have
it's
a friend who's an exotic dancer in Long Island and who she was a UCLA professor. She was.
interesting.
She's brilliant. And same, very conservative life, obeying all the
You
rules.
can't do that.
She's having a lot of fun. She's like 38 now, and she was like, I want to be sexy and explore that side of my life before I get old. And
Instead
she's
of
having, yeah,
repress it and deny yourself any joy or life.
she's in learning the pole dancing and all that stuff, and she's right now having fun. And I hope she's safe and has a great time. She's, but I don't know, Flashdance. I mean, the follow your dreams thing is kind of nice that she's like chasing a dream. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah,
Like,
I just applaud him for actually not showing any actual sex, because I feel like that's all that movie would have been remembered for,
yes, probably.
versus the whole get out of the gutters and into a better lifestyle.
Well, this sort of whore with a heart of gold, right? The stripper with a heart of gold, or sex worker of any kind, porn stars. I have met many porn stars. They're some of the most refreshing people I've ever met because when somebody is putting it all out there, there's nothing left to hide or lie about. They're
Yeah, that's what I always found so funny when you saw some of them trying to become Congress people. Is like, really, what can you say to embarrass me?
Yeah, they have no shame, and it's actually kind of nice.
Might even get you elected.
I remember one I met, and I had just become a companion, and I was still in that beginning of like nobody knew. I didn't think I would get outed, and I was like, I'm only going to do this for a little while, and I'm not like all the rest. I was still stupid like that, and she just laughed. She's like, "You love dating, you love traveling with rich guys. Like, you're not just going to do this for a little while." She's like,
You're in
"Don't lie
it
to
to win it.
yourself." Well, she knew me better than I knew myself, and she was right. But I don't. I
Nice.
think and a lot of dancers are sort of nice ethical people who have dreams and it's a means to an end. I think that recent movie, it was very good, Hustlers with Jennifer Lopez. Those
Yeah.
dancers were not the best people, and in real life they got in a lot of legal trouble for what they did, as they should. You can't drug clients.
Hmm. I know
um
it's a satire. I had trouble getting through it, but I understand the appeal of it. I will say the final song they danced to, Whitney Houston's "I Want to Dance," I thought that was perfect for the satire.
sure. I mean, it's a heist movie essentially, right?
Right?
Ramona is a garbage person. She's
Yeah.
has no morals. But in the same chain, in the same vein of like Wolf of Wall Street, you're not supposed to like her. You're supposed to be fascinated by her. You
Although
know?
I will admit that Hustler does a good job of just reminding you what you're in for without having to remind any of the trolls in the audience. Although I will say, my issue with Wolf of Wall Street was I had already seen just so many movies about gamblers and tycoons and
Yeah.
stockbrokers, and I think my issue is I don't feel like they were successful at showing that he was garbage. He's garbage, but they make all those people so cool at being awful. So I'm just like, what are you trying to do? Like, I don't know. I'm watching the show Suits now, and I'm seeing some of those people who are having a debate when it's very clear cut that you wouldn't want to be any of these people, but they all have truths and they all have severe flaws
Sure.
with their
Yeah.
business and legal practice.
One finance, I live in Manhattan. It's the insane greed. I mean, the numbers, right? It's just
And then when you
it's
see politicians at some of those Wall Street places, and you're like, yeah, they're going to start inflating some numbers, aren't they?
insane, the level of greed. The world is not enough for these types of egos. And so to see him go down was a bit satisfying, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. You want to see any of these guys go down? All the Madoffs, other guys of the world,
Well, and many of them, I don't know. I think I don't know what drives them. I guess ego, or most of them have a fair number of
too big
women.
to fill.
Maybe it's just never enough. I think. Did you see the was it a TV show or movie? The um Call Me. It was about Heidi Fleiss. It was.
Did I see that?
It wasn't that great. It was Jamie Lynn Sigler. She was in The Sopranos.
Oh yeah, I heard about it, but I didn't see it. But yeah, I knew she played Miss Fleiss. Yeah.
It was basically biographical about how Heidi Fleiss became who she did.
Hmm.
It was flattering because Heidi Fleiss is sort of crashed and burned, right?
Yeah,
Not so
but
much about the sex work. Her problem was drugs, right? That's
I
what.
kind of it's kind of like the various shock jock DJs and everything. You never know who's going to be kind of the main face for that time frame.
Sure. There's another movie about sex work. Well, no, TV show, movie, TV show. It was Jennifer Love Hewitt, and it's called Client List. It was like a Lifetime type of movie, and she was a good Texas woman who started giving happy endings at a massage parlor.
Oh wow,
Yeah, she's very cute. Jennifer Love Hewitt is adorable as always. Um,
nice.
but it almost like I don't think it like all her clients were like these gorgeous muscle bound guys. Like, first of all, that's not true. And it was in it was a real place in Sugarland, Texas, and
Oh
her
wow.
husband was unemployed. And yeah, it like almost glorifies it. Like it's
Mm.
it's so good for her. Like nothing bad ever happens. And I don't know, it only went, I think, 2 seasons, and
This is where it's so hard when you're doing a movie with a colorful profession, and it's like I want to keep it in the gray area, to show
well,
reality, but someone gets
yeah,
attached one way or the other.
it
There's the
showed
TV
all.
show Power. Have you seen that yet?
No, it's good.
It's the same kind of deal. Nightclub owner, and technically not doing anything wrong with the nightclub, but he's got crime connections. And I think it, if anything, it does a good job of showing how there's really so many. Both he and his wife are cheating on each other, and then to make it even more awkward, the various district attorneys are doing illegal things just to get a case. So it's kind of just showing you how it just after a while it's back to the whole do as I say, not as I do. Like everybody's breaking the rules.
Oh, Jesus. I hope that's not too true to reality, although it probably is.
Yeah, I doubt there's any current New York gang that's wanted by both the Mexican cartels and the Serbian mob, but what do I know?
Hopefully not right now. Yeah. I mean, politics, my sister works in politics and she says it's just shark pit. And there are so many people like sleeping around and having affairs
Yes.
and quite a bit of drug use. Like it's a lot of shenanigans in too. I mean, as in every world. I
Every
think.
world, man. And it's funny how it intervenes with said other world and then like five other parts of the world that you never thought would connect to the other.
Well, and you've been crew like long hours on film sets. A lot of people end up hooking up because you're, especially if you're on location somewhere far away for like 6 months. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's like you're stuck together, and you're. It happens. A lot of stuff happens because it's just access. You're just there with each other, right?
There you go. Here
I don't.
you become closer to that person.
Yeah, and then you part ways when the job is done, and it was like this weird little. I had a very hot photographer like 10 years ago in New York. Lucky for me, he was gay, so nothing could happen, even if I had wanted it to. I probably would have.
Makes it easier, yeah.
Ian Cutler, he ended up getting an Emmy for stills. He did still photography for some TV show. I can't remember what, but he was so talented, and he passed away. He raced his car, got very successful, made a bunch of money, bought like a Lambo or Ferrari, and he raced his car with somebody down the West Side Highway, and he crashed and died young.
Sorry.
Yeah, like 5 years ago. Ian Cutler, he was hot, so hot. And this photo shoot was, a little bit sexy-ish, lingerie and big stuff like that at the Soho House. And if it had been on the table, I got my wires crossed because the shoot was kind of a sexy theme, and he was good looking, and I mean, he was not interested, but I would have been. So, and I knew like it's just my wires getting crossed because we're having like a sexy day. And I know this is a shoot, it's not reality. There's like crew here. There's makeup and hair people, but somehow I had, and the photos came out great because the look on my face, because I spent the day basically a little horny. It was weird. Very odd. And it was harmless. Nothing happened, but I remember that like I don't know, the crew probably
How
got.
can you forget it? It's
I'm sure
embedded.
the crew didn't appreciate me like being sleazy, but I didn't do anything. I don't. Hopefully, they didn't know. But
Yeah, when people are just giving looks, I don't know why people get so bothered by looks though. It's like it, can eyes kill people now?
no,
Just with a stare?
nothing happened. And sure, they worked with this guy all the time. I'm sure he got hit on everywhere he went.
As long as it's not a stink eye, who cares?
Yeah, I mean, it's fine. I didn't. A lot of photographers like, oh, I had to pay a makeup artist. I gave her $200 to like not leave me for a few hours after a shoot, for a couple hours after a shoot as we packed up, because the photographer was trying to get me alone after shooting.
That is very wise, just to root out the creeps uh,
He still hates me.
and
He's blocked me across all socials. His photos were fine; they weren't that good. But he spent the whole shoot telling me all these women want to fuck him and blah blah blah. I was like, oh, like
if there's any douchebag and he's on Facebook, please let me know. I'm happy to report him and block him.
off the air. No, I won't say it out here, but
No, that's a good idea because
dude's an idiot.
I am in some of those modeling groups, and every once in a while, I that's a good point. That's actually a wonderful segue. There was this one, I think it was like DFW, but it was also like an international one, and one of the admins was doing a really good job. He, two other gals and one other guy, and they were just all like bringing up some people. It's like you got complaints about them, list them here so they are not in this group, and we report them. And it was a very friendly group, but there was at least like one or two where someone was like, "Really, him? I haven't heard anything bad." I'm like, "Oh, hey, maybe he wasn't sleazy or shitty on your shoot, but if 500 people complain, you got to take that into consideration."
Well, word gets around, and you're a professional, but like the GWCC.
Also, are you? But yeah, this is
Well, the guy with
interesting.
the camera, that's happened when I did modeling as a teenager. It was a real profession, and then you got these GWCs, like guy with a camera who's like, oh, I can use this to like meet hot people, and
Mm.
yeah, word gets around pretty quick. And the good ones, like Ryan Dwyer in California, who's shot me a million times. His wife is hotter than any model. He totally loves her. He's like this mellow stoner surf bum. He
Ah,
makes you feel great, and he never ever gets creepy. He's around hot chicks all day, every day. He didn't care, and that's why he does so well in the business, because he's completely trustworthy, and he's so nice, and he's not a sleaze bag. Uh,
that's wonderful to hear. That gives me some hope
yeah,
for the human race.
right. The good ones are really good, and they know like not to do that crap. Don't be a he bitch.
I mean, I just hope we really just get to this point. Like, if I do a movie set production in the future, I'm going to have like some behind the scenes guides. So that way, we can not only have some behind the scenes stuff ready to go, but we can also have someone reporting anyone who's not doing the right thing. And you have that to back you up in court.
Yeah, sure. When
Like,
people know that they're on film,
this cameraman touched the lead star's ass. That's an instant fire. And if
yeah,
their lawyer has no case.
yeah, people behave better when they know that they're like, I like to fly planes, and there's a black box.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and it records, it overlays the last like half hour. And when you know that you're being recorded, you're less likely to say stupid stuff, right? It's good. Keep it to the small talk. And like, yeah, if people on set know that, I mean, they should know everybody has a camera phone nowadays. They should be behaving anyway, but
Well, I
sad.
mean, I think that's been a plus with all the protests that have
Yeah,
turned into
accountability.
riots and other BLM stuff. You're just saying, okay, no, this guy legit did not read your rights
Yep.
and acted like a thug when they're a public figure.
Yeah, how many people were probably killed by bad people, and there was no video evidence back
There
then?
was no trial, and you're like, so he got away with murder. So he
Yep.
or she's going to do it again.
Sure, I'm sure it happened all the time. And I know
Who
that.
was that nurse who got shot? It wasn't Trayvon Martin, and it was a female.
Oh, Brianna.
Breonna Taylor, yeah, and it's just heartbreaking. I'm like, she arrived to a scene, and
Right.
then this other gal came up and shot her in the face. And it's like, well, how could you even mistake her?
Yeah, I mean, and they're trying stuff like turning off their body cameras, and they, of course, the disgusting thing in this country is qualified immunity. That when they do things that are wrong, you cannot sue them. You cannot sue a prosecutor, a DA. Um, you can. There's rare occasions where you can like get file Brady motions, which goes in their file and nobody even gives a shit. But qualified immunity is disgusting. That they are
Yeah,
above the law, literally.
especially with the lobbyists. They're like, yeah, it's going to be thrown out. Another worker's death on an oil rig. That don't matter. I'm like, well,
Well,
it
the
should.
problem is, what lawyer is going to go after them, because they sort of need each other. They're all in the same business. They're all in court every
Mm-hmm.
day together. And also, what judge is going to side against them? Because you can't win an election and become a judge without the police union donations to your campaign.
Yeah,
So
there's
judges
that
almost
bias.
never side against them. I know.
Mm.
I live in LA, and one year I looked up the statistics of people who had sued LAPD, and it was like, I don't know, 469 lawsuits that year. Do you know how many who were won? How many of those cases were won by the citizen?
Probably 5 out of 500.
Zero.
Zero.
And it's that every year. No one wins almost ever. It's like one in like 7 years. The citizen.
That's garbage.
Yep.
Um,
You cannot win. Basically,
I
it's basically zero.
the Young Turks did a cool survey. I don't want to use cool, but just they did a classification of like when there was a lot of propaganda saying, "Oh, we're in danger. We have a dangerous job," and it's like there was like 10 cop deaths, and like 3/7 of them were by other dirty cops killing other cops who were snitching on them. I'm like, yeah, see, yeah,
Literally, like
so-called dangerous.
being the like 7-Eleven guy late at night is far more dangerous. Being a crab fisherman is far more dangerous. Like,
Right?
it's actually not that dangerous of a job.
Even if you're going by some of the homeless who aren't in their right mind, like you just walk across the street to the next area, you should be fine.
And I love that
Versus someone who's charging you and you got to use self-defense.
and they make these very fast decisions with very little information, so they make bad decisions because
Yeah,
the whole thing is, I mean, in other countries don't have this problem. So we know it can be done better because there are places that do, right? It's not impossible. But I mean, don't get me started on the sex worker stings. It's so creepy and voyeuristic.
I heard a rumor
Like
actually here.
peeking in on somebody's sex life and then deciding who can, when two consenting adults, the government gets to decide whether or not those two people can agree to fuck each other. Like, get the fuck out of my bedroom. Like, last I checked, I own my body. The state doesn't. I fuck
Yeah, it's
who I
just as
want, when I want, for what reason I want, as long as I'm not forcing the other party to fuck me, because that would be rape, right? Then
correct.
government,
It's
go away. It's
it
so voyeuristic. It's creepy.
it is almost as bad as uh, preventing certain drug use, let alone who can be married and gay, and of course,
Yeah.
don't get me started on abortion. But it's I did hear a rumor here in Dallas that there's often are a lot of streetwalkers seen in that area off of Regal Row by some other production studios and everything. And I did hear a rumor for a while that there were cops that were letting it go on, and so then that gets you thinking, okay, is one of them the clients? You know,
Many times they know in Oakland, there was that famous case where they were all gangbanging this one particularly adorable little one in return for protecting
New
her.
Orleans. Wow.
Oakland,
Oh,
California.
Oakland, California.
Yeah, they all got fired, thank God. But she stood up for herself.
Yeah, it's
It's
very
amazing achievement.
predatory, right? Because it's like,
Amazing
okay,
achievement.
so what if she refuses? You gonna arrest her?
Well, that's how you end up dead, right?
That's garbage.
That said,
Fucking
when I
drugs,
had that
man.
stalker, the Phoenix PD saved my life. They did not like me. So the stalker was a pimp who wanted to make money off me, and I said no, I don't want that, and you're not going to do that to me. But that's what happens in my business when you're pretty and marketable. Sometimes people want to make money off you. And me and my big old mouth, when this pimp wanted that, I told him to fuck off, which I probably should have just ignored him, but I didn't know who I was messing with, right? Stupid. So he wanted to harm me. That happens a lot. And the Phoenix PD, they put him in prison. So,
I'm good on him.
well, I don't know what to make of that. I don't think they cared that much about me. I think they wanted him because he was also like doing other bad stuff.
Oh, so he was already like a serial criminal who'd already.
Yeah, guns and raping people and running girls, and he was a bad dude. Um,
So he'd already had multiple offenses, so he was already a state priority. But I know what you mean, where it's like they're not actually saving you. And I do feel like a lot of people do that propaganda. It's like they don't care about, they want
they
to just avoid having to do paperwork on a body count.
Yeah, I think when me and my lawyers met with them, I was convinced they were gonna maybe harm me in some way, but they didn't, which I'm,
Oh, like use you as like a fall guy or something.
yeah, something, but
He or she enabled this asshole. It's like,
they
no.
thought it was like my boyfriend or something. I was like, dude, I have never met this person. I swear I do not know him. But I guess usually it's some kind of
Passing by someone at a nightclub does not make them your boyfriend. You know,
he was on the internet. I never met him. I didn't even know his name was David Elms, and I didn't know he was Vietnamese till I saw the mugshot. Thought he was a white guy.
space.
David Elms. But
I'm
so
hoping OnlyFans actually opens this up and realizes how sex work crosses over so many different patterns, so many different areas, much like entertainment.
well, people are always going to want access to good-looking, young, sexy people. I don't think that's going to
Plus, if
change.
they can do it from their private studio / home, there you go.
It's
Don't have
better.
to work for the man anymore.
I think it's been COVID kind of democratized it in a big way. I know
Right?
made so much off OnlyFans, they're no longer going back to in-person work, and so they are safer.
I had Leslie Zen, who was actually one of our first guests here on the show, and she talked about how like that's just all she does because she never signed with any label.
Nice.
And
Totally independent.
hmm,
She's completely independent.
yeah, absolutely. Like and she was also, you know, people would often, of course, mockingly back in the 2000s when everyone was derogatory, she often got the tough bitch label, and it's like, well, yeah, she wants to be in and be out and not have this take all day, and again, not have to work for be contracted for some company that won't let you work for some other, you know, internet company.
Yeah, I don't want to be owned.
Right?
So can I ask you, I wanted to ask you, since I got the chance to meet you and I've listened to so many of your episodes, when you are
Lovely.
part of a movie that's like really scary, do you guys have to like take breaks and have laughs over craft services and like, Or are you actually scared, or is it totally not scary because you're on set and it's not?
Yeah, that's just it. Because there's no music and you're messing with the lighting. You're kind of
Okay.
you're basically playing a god. My issue has just always been me and my pal Nathaniel, who I still help out on some festival shorts or PSAs when I can.
Okay.
Uh, we were dealing with this one prick who just we the pain in our asses is just getting all the paperwork. There's always someone who's got 20 different reasons and is like, sign or don't. Stop having
Yeah.
us be the good guy. No one is forcing you to work on this movie. But if you can't sign this, you're the same troublemaker who's going to do the whole take my name off it, or you can't release this because I'm involved with it. It's like, it just paperwork just indicates, hey, everyone, all parties agreed. And regardless of whether you want to be associated with this or not, you worked on it and you're not going to prevent this, you know, picture from getting completed and all the other people's work. But we had this one guy, he was like a recommended boom mic operator and sound recorder. And he was just refusing to sign any of this. And we were just trying to get ahead of the curve. And I'm like, yes, you signed up. And then he finally was like, fine, I'll sign it. But we were just up to here with this, like, okay, well, if he's exploiting on us over email, he's probably not going to be good. So, ironically, the day we were finally fed up with him, he had just finally given us his paperwork, and then we saw him talking some smack about us, and he deleted it after 5 minutes. But we took a screenshot of it because we're like, okay, so what did we do wrong? We asked you to sign your paperwork.
Yeah. So petty.
And then I asked the other colleagues, and they're like, "Oh, we never had an issue with him. He was quiet." I'm like, "Well, could have fooled me because very colorful here."
What his problem was. What a weirdo.
No, just say I'm not fucking interested right now. I don't like how you're. I don't like your face. I don't want to. I don't want to be involved. Okay, cool. We won't work together.
Sure. Bye.
Bye, Felicia.
Yeah. I mean, it takes all kinds, nobody can like everybody.
Thank you. Yeah, and people change. There might be someone who's like, yeah, they were very talkative and trying to force a friendship on someone. I never understand that. It's like, let's see if we work well together before we decide to become Facebook friends, you know?
Yeah, like calm down. And the fake charisma, there's so much of that in
The
Dallas.
fake charisma. And they
Yeah,
never stop acting when the cameras are off.
ugh. It's gotta be exhausting to not be a real person, right?
I couldn't live a lie.
LA's full of those people. Dallas too.
There's that. I'm sure there's plenty of other places in Atlanta or Miami.
That's why New York's great. They're not nice and they don't pretend to be. I'm just
Get out of here.
yeah, I'm walking in every day.
Stop.
Yeah, just 4-letter words and then it goes by. But yeah, it's interesting. So yeah, it's not really. You're right. Music is so much of a film, especially horror. Like it's not nearly as scary without the soundtrack and the Foley and all the other stuff.
There's that. You're but if there's anything, people should just definitely be on a film set and just realize, hey, there's a reason why some of these guys lose their brain. If they got nothing going on and they're on set all day, you're going to detect it. You're going to see it. And it just was interesting to me how you have to create all that lighting.
Yeah.
That is not there. Like there's a wonderful French movie, I think from stars Jacqueline Bisset from the 70s called Day for Night. It's talking about that whole thing. You're filming nighttime during the day, vice versa.
Sure. Creating rain. They had to Singing in the Rain with Gene Kelly. That's like milky water because regular water didn't show up as rain.
Right? You have to use all kinds of alternates.
Funny, it's breaking character too. Like this, one of the scariest things I went on a haunted hayride in Griffith Park Zoo. They do that every year for Halloween in Los Angeles, and there's lots of good actors in LA, of course, like every big city.
Oh, sweet!
And we're on the back of this hayride, and my friend was quite well dressed. He wore like a 3-piece suit from Zara. He looked really cute. And this zombie guy, he's acting, and he's got the fake chainsaw, and he's running after us with the fake chainsaw, like rah, screaming. And he completely breaks character for 2 seconds, looks at my friend Jeff and goes, "Nice outfit, man." and then goes back to
I
being.
love those kinds of stories,
It
and
was so good.
you will make friends on some of the most amateur, poorly thought out productions or ones which you want nothing to do with. And you're just like, but that's how we're friends. I'm glad we had this awful experience because now we're still talking.
When authenticity rings like nothing else. Honestly, even in sex work, most people aren't assholes and creeps. They're just seeking connection.
Oh, but I saw it on TV. Amy? I'm just kidding.
No, right? I mean, like most people want like authentic connection. It's hard to find. We're often we can't find it.
Mm-hmm.
We can't achieve it. I'm pretty awkward, like sciency and dorky,
Welcome to
and
the club.
sometimes I can't connect with people. That's all anybody really wants, right?
Right?
Ever. Or anywhere else. We're just trying to.
You're not going to see it anywhere else either. That's the other irony. You'll
Yeah,
see
that's
different forms of awkwardness.
sure. They I always liked writers. Had the honor of knowing a couple of very well-known Hollywood writers. Wrote household name stuff, and they were exactly as brilliant as you would expect.
Sweet.
And the way their minds worked, they would like lock themselves in a hotel room for 6 weeks if the writing.
I've heard of those. It's just to make the ideas finally arrive.
Yeah, and then sometimes they just don't for like a month or two. There's just nothing. Uh, which
Yeah.
is difficult if Paramount is trying to get you to write something. But
And you already don't want to write it.
can't imagine like writing a script and trying to make it come to life. That seems totally. I don't
It's
even.
it's a lot.
It's and all the things that need to come to from like in your business, like from the getting the rights to getting it greenlit to getting. It's a wonder
Mm-hmm.
anything ever gets made.
So many good podcasts out now that, especially if you're into true crime, that are good at showing real life terrors and dramatizing it very well and with credibility. They actually reached out to the families of the deceased and the prosecutors. Uh, Even some of the crooks got their take.
Yeah.
And same deal too. There's some great podcasts about the making of certain blockbusters, and you're like, it's an amazing that any of this even took off.
Sure. Yeah. How much went wrong and how much had to happen. The one that kills me is the unsolved mysteries. It's very frustrating to me.
And you're right.
It truly is unsolved, and it makes me
It's
angry.
like a bad Criminal Minds episode. You're like, and that's it? What?
Right? Like when they're just, oh, was that no DuPont? Did you see that one about recently?
Mel Dubont.
No, DuPont. No, it was the rich guy's family. He was psycho, and at the very end, they had the recording, and he was talking to himself.
Oh, it was like Robert Hurst or Durst. Yeah. And
Durst, not DuPont.
yeah. I did hear about that, and I don't even know why they wanted to record him, but I'm glad he's away in jail and they reopened that case.
The Jinx.
The Jinx, that's what it was.
It was a while ago, like 7, 8 years ago. Dude, it's not jump out and like scare you kind of horror, but it's so creepy at the end. I didn't sleep very well that night because it's the very end. You finally realize how crazy he really is.
The fact that this man exists. Yeah.
And it's real, right?
Yeah. Pretty hard to lie about that. Ray Donovan also kind of talks about various shady talent agencies and how they often have the whole don't invite any girls to your hotel. You might wake up with them dead, and we're gonna have to explain this.
Sure, that's not fair. You can't have a dead hooker in your room.
But it's interesting because like you're looking at it and you're always wondering which real life case is that inspired by. And like I'm thinking that method actor refusing to come out while high on marijuana. I think that's Wesley Snipes. That one, definitely a Britney Spears type case where they're being extorted by their business manager who's also a blood relative. And then there's a few other ones where you're like, that could be anyone.
It used to bug me a lot, the horror film, the real true crime. They often wanted to kill pretty women in their 20s. I'm not in my 20s anymore, but when I was, realizing that there's this subsect of men who want to torture and kill. I mean, I wasn't blonde, thank God, but my niece is. And I see her. She's 18 and blonde and tall and thin, lives in San Francisco. And the way I see some men look at her scares me. And
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess they want to conquer this type of girl, the cheerleader
They
is.
want to prey on the weak.
Yeah, and I guess that's it, right? She's not strong. She's young and stupid, and yeah, it's an easy target. Like
Hmm.
Bundy, right? He always picked the ones with the ponytails. He could pull.
Oh, absolutely. I love all the different health and uh, mental health podcasts because they pretty much all hit the nail on the head, saying pretty much the cause of a lot of these are various insecurities. You know, you already take the fear mongering clickbait, but then when you have just people constantly just telling you, "Oh, this is bad and this is that," and it's like, and I fortunately, I, I'm glad I never bought into any of that fear mongering. Is like all these, you know, that because insecurity is like the cause of everything from jealousy to just bullying.
Sure. Yeah.
And I had a deceased aunt who's fortunately no longer with us, but her husband, my uncle, is also unfortunately just as bad as her, where they had a bad habit of where they were just like just refusing to like acknowledge like a waiter or a pizza delivery person's existence. Oh, he wronged me. I'm like, they were late. They didn't have the or someone gave them a bad order, so they didn't do this to spite you. Oh yeah, but he is bad. He is terrible. I'm like, what? Then order from a better restaurant. Like, what's the problem? And,
Bizarre.
and it's just amazing to me when I see people just they don't even know the other person. They're just spiting them. And if this is where I think the tip does the talking and just reminds someone, okay, I'll do better next time. But it almost is like a teacher versus student argument too. It's like, well, did you use your words? No. Okay. Well, then you got what you got.
I mean, and yeah, it's not really about you often. Like the person's stressed out, tired. They don't make a lot. Like, give them a break. And
Right?
and also, have you ever like I don't know your aunt or uncle, but have you guys ever fucked up? Are you perfect all the time?
Yeah. I don't see you got.
Probably not.
Well, looking at their weight, they don't cook any of their own food anytime.
I mean, I'm glad they never make mistakes, but most people make mistakes. You give them some slack. And like you said, if it's terrible more than once or twice, okay, move on. Next person.
Yeah. Leave a review. They'll take note.
People kind of love to feel like slighted. Like they like to feel like that because they
They
have.
like to add all this extra melodrama that doesn't exist. You're just like, I don't think anyone went out of their way to do this. This is just a bad soap opera that you're painting in everybody's brain right
You're not that important. No one actually cares.
now.
Yeah, that's I don't know. Like they said in the turn of the century America, most of the serial killers were women and they were poisoning their husbands, but they started getting caught, like the arsenic thing in the tea. Um, there was a lot of like because murder is basically a man thing. It's like whatever 10,000 to one.
I buy that. Yeah.
Like women, then maybe that's physical strength or testosterone, whatever. But for the most part, women don't do the murdering nearly as much. But apparently, like a long time ago, there were a lot of women poisoning their husbands. Forensics got too good, so they had to. I guess they had to.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't even know how true that is, but they said that the serial killer trope was ladies back in the day. There's nurses who do, right? That happens. Weird.
Wow.
There's been movies about that. Eddie Redmayne movie was really good. The nurse who was
Oh, I didn't see that one. Wow.
he thought he was like mercy killing. He would up their insulin and put him into a coma, and he thought he was some kind of angel of death. I guess it's based on a true story, but it happens.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, takes all kinds, right?
The more you learn.
That's cool that you're a film buff. True. So
Likewise, it's cool to know that you're seeing some cool documentaries that give you chills, but at least you learn more about the
that's
human
it.
spirit.
Well, and if you ever get a chance to be part of a movie about sex work, tell them to just make her human, please.
I wanted to for a while actually do a documentary on slut shaming because I noticed it just would be cool to just know the origin of why is that like one of the first insults people do, especially if the person's like not taking your money or anything, you know?
If they just like to fuck, what? Why are you mad? You
Yeah.
should slut shame like
But
like
they'll even do it just like if there even isn't even any sex involved. And you're just like,
Or like the way she
Because he did his job? What am I missing
Yeah, maybe I don't know if they're jealous, like, I don't know.
here? It probably is jealousy.
Yeah, the audacity of some people don't like audacity, so the thing they hate about somebody who's sexually comfortable is, like, how dare they? They
How
should
dare you exist and be different?
or how you should have more
How dare
modesty.
you be opinionated and happy in your body and gay or whatever it is?
We don't really like people who like themselves, right? That makes us
Oh,
mad. They
look at this new Little Mermaid remake they did. It was like, okay, so I'm not on the Disney remake bandwagon. I'm not a kid, but anyone wants parent that wants to take their kid to that, go have fun. But then you just saw so many people saying, "Oh my god, they
yeah.
changed the race." I'm like, and what's the
No,
problem here?
representation matters. It's really important for little black girls to see
Yeah,
themselves too. Representation matters, obviously.
absolutely. And I was just
Why they
like,
did it.
okay, so I'm not going to support Disney's whole agenda, which is trying to keep, the license and make a
Yeah.
buck off someone. But anyone who wants to see that because they identify with it or want a fantasy film to show their minority daughter, that's cool. But it's just like, okay, but what? And then it just irks me when I see some of these people just saying, I'm equal rights, but I got a problem with this. I'm like, so I don't believe you. Please tell me a compelling argument.
That faux outrage. The hardest thing in the world is to like live and let live, right? It's hard for me. I'll be in Starbucks and just judge a bitch for because I don't like her yoga pants, and she doesn't even know I'm standing behind her. That's how crazy. Like I'm
Yeah.
just in my head in an invisible fight with her, and she's not even. She has her earbuds in and doesn't know I exist because
I,
we do. We like to control other people because infants. We're just all infants.
oh,
Just,
how
you know.
dare we exist?
Well, Mother Nature will have had it with us at some point. So until
I
then,
think that's what COVID was response to is like, yeah, you toxic people, you gotta die.
maybe she'll
You're
come back
going away.
to us, right? Finally, we might deserve it. Maybe who
You're
knows?
not anyone not washing their hands. See you next time.
Natural selection at work, right?
Karma.
Right. So,
Oh, so
well,
this has been delightful having you on. Anything you want to promote? Any blog? Any site?
my yeah. If anybody, yeah,
Any
my social,
modeling portfolio? I
yeah,
saw
all
that you
my
had one.
I do. My socials are Amy Taylor NYC, and yeah, I'll be on some stuff in the next couple months after the holidays. So yeah, people can check that out and my nonsense ramblings, or they can ignore them, whatever they like. And so, and I'll be
It's
looking
not
for.
nonsense.
Well,
We love doing social topics and documentary discussions.
yeah, it's keep it up. Your podcasts are funny and interesting. I love them.
Wow. Hope so. We definitely have some interesting people coming up. We had one conversation that was interesting because it was about AI generated artwork. And it was like, well, just do some backstory, make sure you didn't steal someone else's likeness.
That stuff is fascinating. What's coming?
Yeah. And I mean, I think the strikes were enough of a message. It's like, hey, that it was okay until someone got hurt.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, they have. I think actors and writers they have a right to be scared of this AI stuff that's coming.
Totally. I mean, I know many people who've been in IT and they kind of slowly got fired either due to office politics or just someone just saying, I'd rather have a computer automate this all for me.
Sure. A friend of mine just lost their job as a quantitative trader for a hedge fund because it's a computer now that does it better. Doesn't get emotional. Doesn't make stupid trades.
Less arguments.
Horrible,
Pretty
right?
soon we're all going to be playing chess with a computer,
Well, I mean, what about authenticity though? Like,
right?
I mean,
What about
like
being human?
there's those real dolls, but
I
I
don't
don't.
like Siri because Siri is not a real person.
Yeah, and like, can AI really write a script even yet? Is it close? I don't think it's even close.
It's not even Skynet level.
It stays for a while, right?
Right. It doesn't linger. Well,
Well, so how's it? Enjoy Dallas.
likewise, you enjoy
Great.
New York.
Yeah, it's fine. It's, filthy and nonsense, but it'll do. Which is good. So,
Don't get ripped off. Don't let
no,
people drag you down for the mud.
Never get in an empty subway car. That's what I've learned.
Always have a witness.
Yep.
Take out your phone when someone's wronging you and let the internet decide who's right.
This is it. Fiat lux, as they say. Let there be
Right?
light. Yeah.
Anyone trolling you on social media, just lose their contact. Just saying it nicely. If they're just being snobby, and be open-minded, don't look for just one answer. Maybe there's an in-between answer regarding your situation.
Yeah, that's a great way to think of it.
I'm using BetterHelp now, and I love just therapy in general, because I think so many people who have a bad experience with therapy, well, that's just it. They just saw one, advisor, and they weren't good at opening up.
Yeah, like any business, some are better than others, right?
Totally. And I get that's a lot of time and money, but that's just it too. You decide how much you want to invest in this.
That's awesome. I am so here for like these younger masculine men who are like,
I'm tired of the guys doing the whole have bigger stones. It's a little okay.
You guys are in therapy, and like that's so healthy. I love
Just
it.
Just cry. One day. Oh, that person said such a fucked up thing about me. Fuck yeah.
Good. So good. Well, it was fun to chat. It was fun to get to meet you.
Likewise, Miss Taylor.
I'll talk to you later.
Absolutely. We'll keep in touch, and for real. Any other topic that's down your lane that you're just like, I gotta share my 2 cents on this.
Good. We'll pester each other.
Stellar. Be safe on set. Avoid COVID.
We'll return after these messages.
The Jacked Up Review Show podcast is honored to be part of the Blind Knowledge Podcast Network. Join anytime, talk the talk, and enjoy yourselves. There's something enlightening for everyone with this crowd of cool cats. Check them out.
Hey, it's Brent Pope, the host of Breakfast with Brent Pope. You've seen me on some of your favorite TV shows saying things like, "Give it up, Jimmy. You got to sink this putt to win." On Breakfast with Brent Pope, I sit down with guests from the entertainment world, and we do it all over breakfast. Or should I say Brentfast? Every week on Brentfast, you get inside Hollywood info and tips, great breakfast recs and booty debates. Most of all, you get the most delightful 30 minutes of your week. So dig in. It's Brentfast time. Listen at Brentfast.com, Apple Podcasts, or wherever fine podcasts are found.
Do you ever find yourself thinking about who would win in a fight between Goku and Superman? Hi, I'm James Gavsey, and on the Who Would Win show, me and my co-host Ray ignore anything important happening in the outside world and debate fictional battles between characters from comics, movies, and video games.
We got a new show every week, and almost always am I the winner.
Yeah, not true, Ray.
In the past, we've discussed such matches as Captain America versus Darth Vader, Solid Snake versus the Iron Giant, classic matchups like RoboCop versus Terminator, and even the Muppets versus Sesame Street.
That one was crazy. So if you're a fan of geek culture and love a spirited debate, check out the Who Would Win show wherever you get your podcasts, or check us out at whowouldwinshow.com.
Follow us on the web on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. The podcast is available on Podbean, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Anchor, Apple, and anywhere else podcasts are available. Feel free to review our show and leave comments on any of those sites. Thanks a million for listening. It's a jacked up